Here's a map of the Arizona border along the Colorado River near Yuma. The river is the border here, and it runs roughly north to south for about 17 miles. The Cocopah Reservation has 3 parts. Only the West Reservation is on the border, and it's used only for farming. The other 2 parts are used for casinos, RV parks, and residential housing. The 5 miles of fence on the south, shown as a green line, is mostly existing 18-foot high bollard fence that was constructed during the late Bush or early Obama administration. In the north, there are about 6 miles of 30-foot high bollard fence, also in green, but it has a couple of gaps left in it due to Biden's construction shutdown. In the middle, where the reservation lies, shown in red, there is no pedestrian border fence at all, only a low vehicle barrier. There is a 2-lane Mexican highway running parallel to the border here, and dirt roads leading down to the border all along the 17-mile stretch. Much of the riverbed is dry most of the time. Anyone can be driven to the border here and just walk across to the U.S. This is a new 30-foot high section of bollard fence on the south side of the stretch along the Colorado. This section, built by Trump, replaces an older steel screen fence that could be easily cut through. It runs about 1.5 miles to the north and then joins with an 18-foot high section about 3.5 miles long, built during the Bush and Obama times, which continues to the edge of the reservation. The construction of the steel bollard fence started after the enactment of the Secure Fence Act of 2006, passed as a response to 9/11. The first contracts were let towards the end of the G.W. Bush administration and continued into the Obama term. About 200 or 300 miles of 15 to 18 foot high steel bollard fence were constructed by Bush and Obama on the border. This is a photo I made in 2019 of the 18-foot high Bush-Obama fence that was constructed about 12 years ago. It looks the same now, except for some reason they have removed the concertina wire that the Army installed a few months before this image was taken. This fence is much the same design as the Trump fence, as you see, only it isn't generally as high as the Trump fence. This Bush-Obama bollard fence is not being replaced, but being left as is because it is fairly effective. If they need to make it more secure, they have been building a second taller fence behind it, not tearing down the old bollard fence and replacing it. Looking south, this is a gate to the road on the levee. The bollard fence does not follow the river and is not directly on the border here. The actual border is very close in some places, but in other places more than a mile away, as here. Just to the right of the gate is a canal which runs parallel to the border on the American side, almost the entire length of this section. It looks deceptively calm, but it actually has a rapid flow. Quite a few people die trying to cross this canal, I have been told. They try to cross and get caught in the flow and can't climb out the steep walls. Then if you turn around and look to the north, you see the entrance sign for the Cocopah Reservation. This is what the fence looks like all along the reservation land, about 6 miles in a straight line. The buildings and power lines that you see behind the fence are in Mexico, and this vehicle barrier is the only barrier between the U.S. and Mexico for 6 miles. The fence is in some places a short bollard fence, and other places what is called a Normandy's fence. Coyotes can cut through this fence with battery-operated power tools and drive across, but I don't think that is a big problem here due to the canal that runs parallel to the fence. However, it's a great place for those claiming asylum to walk across and surrender to the nearest Border Patrol agent. Fraudulent asylum seeking is a new improved form of illegal immigration developed, tested, and implemented during the Obama term in office. Instead of trying to run from the Border Patrol agents, the illegal border crossers go to the first one they see and just say, "I want to claim asylum." Then the agent will transport you to the station. You have to pass an easy test which is judged on the honor system. If they can't prove what the asylum seeker is saying, by law they have to accept his or her word. The asylum seekers will get an official government document that allows them to live for a year legally with their families to allegedly start their asylum case with a court. Nonprofits and the government will take good care of them and transport them all across America to settle in their new home. Most of them ultimately just disappear and reside here illegally. This is so much easier than how they used to do it, and women and kids can also come under this system, not just men. This is a great place to do it here on the Colorado River at the Cocopah Reservation. Anyone can easily cross here, and the Border Patrol agents are just waiting to receive and process the illegals under this new Obama system. Now we're approaching the northern boundary of this part of the reservation. In the background you can see a range of mountains. One of the reasons the Cocopah gave for not wanting a high bollard fence here is that it would interfere with their view of their sacred mountains. The fence could also potentially interfere with some of the tribal leaders lining their pockets with kickbacks from the cartel smugglers. When you see the bollard fence, that marks the end of the reservation. So here we are on the border of the reservation. The canal is the same one we saw earlier on the other side. It runs all the way across the reservation. At this point it appears to go under the levee via a tunnel, so they can cross here without getting their feet wet. This fast-flowing canal could be a little risky to cross, especially for families with small children. The border is just a few tens of yards to the west. So this is a convenient place for fake refugees to cross. There is some sign too. Here you can see the tracks they have made around the fence and the litter they have left behind. In fact, a little later that day I saw 11 illegal aliens crossing here to claim asylum. I think this is a very popular place to cross. Notice they have a porta potty for the illegal aliens and the Border Patrol agents waiting to receive them and transport them to the station for processing. Our asylum process was developed before global transportation was so cheap and easy. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions, or more from all over the world would be eligible to claim asylum. All they have to do is come to our border and pass the easy, credible fear interview. Most are trained now what to say to pass, and the interviewer has to accept it if he can't prove otherwise. Needless to say, this is a recipe for mass asylum fraud. It's not a sustainable asylum process. This system will destroy our national sovereignty, but that's what progressives and their subversive allies want to do, isn't it? Biden changed the regulations so that crime victims can apply for asylum. Traditionally, this is not a qualification for asylum. Also, crime victims may be victims because they're members of a rival criminal organization. They could be drug dealers or murderers themselves. I'm sure we will import a lot of criminals in this way. If they say the right words and they bring a child with them, they will be accepted and quickly released into the U.S., criminal or not. The smuggling cartels control who crosses the borders, and virtually everyone that crosses has contacts with the cartels. In case they want to work in the future with a cartel and make some easy money, they have a number they can call. This is an old photo of Morales Dam that was on display at the dam on the Mexican side. There are 5 miles of border between the reservation and the dam, and there's 1 mile above the dam. The 5 miles of fence below the dam are complete. Construction of the 1 mile section above the dam has not been completed due to the Biden shutdown. This is a construction camp and the new Trump fence about 5 miles north of the Cocopah Reservation, just before you get to Morales Dam. This 30-foot high section of fence is complete and without any gaps south of the dam. Before this fence was built, the fence below the dam was the same as we saw on the reservation. Above the dam there was no fence at all previously. This is just a few yards north of the construction site. You can see the dam through the bollard fence. The dam diverts Mexico's portion of the Colorado River water into the Todos Mexico, that is all Mexican Canal, which is on the other side and you can't see here. The American water is diverted a few miles north into the All-American Canal. The first gap in the fence is right next to the dam, seen at the end of this image. This is a closer view of the gap at the dam. I think you can just walk across the dam here. Below the dam, the river is mostly dry, and the person can easily walk across there too. Above the dam, the water is about waist deep and can be waded. These gaps are left here usually because there will be a gate put in the fence or a special section due to water drainage issues. Apparently a special crew comes to install these parts of the fence. A little farther north, this is a larger gap of about 100 yards. We're looking across the river here, and the fence you see at first is actually the fence on the other side of the river between California and Mexico. At the end of this image, you see the fence continue that we're following between Arizona and Mexico along the river. This is a view from above the dam looking south. You can see the small gap at the dam in the distance, and the larger gap is closer to us. The dam can be seen in the distance through the larger gap. Here we are at the final gap along the Colorado. On the other side of the bridge, the section of fence is in Arizona. The Colorado River flows through the gap just past that section. On the other side of the river is the fence between California and Mexico. On the right of that fence is the Andrade border crossing in California, and on the left is Algodones, Mexico. This ends a tour of the Colorado River and Cocopah Reservation. The construction that has been done is fantastic. I'm not trying to disparage the new construction by Trump, just pointing out the parts that may need to be improved. I should be posting soon more videos about border gaps in Arizona as well as California.